What's up? I'm AJ and welcome back to Gen Z Garage.
If you've been following along in my videos, you know that I purchased this running but very high mileage Fiero about a year ago. Since then we removed the engine and cradle, rebuilt the engine, installed the engine and rebuilt transmission onto the cradle, and today, I'll be preparing the car for the reinstallation of the engine. The engine bay, like any other part of the car, has carefully engineered components that typically only install one way if you are restoring a car to the original condition. Because of this, it's important to remember where everything goes. Just like you would do with other parts of the car, make sure you take lots of pictures so you understand where everything installs and how it goes back. This includes not only bagging and tagging bolts, but also making sure you can understand the correct routing for all the vacuum lines, cables, and hoses. As you can see, I took pictures of almost anything I thought important. I start by removing almost anything I can find, beginning with the heat shield covering the HVAC lines, followed by the brake booster filter, and then the HVAC lines. Next, I move on to the heater hoses. If I wanted to keep these hoses, I'd have to use a pick and carefully work my way around between the hard line tube and the hose. However, I won't be keeping these. At over 200,000 miles, these hoses have long since been replaced, but I'll be replacing them with OEM exact fit replacements. In this case, the easiest thing to do is take a razor blade and cut down the length of the hose, which allows you to get a screwdriver in there and easily pry the hose out. After both hoses are out, I move back to the other side and begin removing the fuel lines. Even though I'd previously refurbished the fuel tank and installed a new fuel pump, the lines are definitely not in the kind of condition that I'd want to drive around with. I'll be replacing these later. Although it seems simple enough, make sure you take pictures of everywhere the fuel lines mount to the firewall. You'll thank yourself later. With everything disconnected, the fuel lines are out. Next, I remove the fuel evaporative canister.
There we go. Oh my god, it has a little turret on him! Oh my god!
A little what?
A little turret! Right on the top, there little turret!
Next, I remove the rear firewall vacuum lines.
Yummy. My favorite flavor of cars, rust.
And then the trunk firewall heat shield. And then the rear hard brake lines. And finally, I remove the dreaded fiberglass insulation. It's important to remember when working with fiberglass that you wear a dust mask and goggles. This stuff is nasty and will come apart in a cloud of dust. While this probably worked well originally at reducing undesirable sounds and heat, over the years it's clearly broken down and does nothing but make the engine bay look ugly. It's everywhere, so it's important to get it all out, including the clips if I want to make this engine bay look as good as the engine does. When I've got it cleaned up enough, I then use a shop vac to take care of the rest. And finally, I remove what's left of the old battery tray with a Sawzall. Even though I cut the first part off myself, my dad continuously reminds me about not having any backup kids, so he insists on holding the Sawzall while I cut. With that, the swing set bar is liberated from the engine compartment. With the engine bay clear, we decided we needed to take it a step further and remove the rear clip. Unfortunately, the camera died and we didn't get any video of it. There's an excellent video made by a YouTuber, It's a Steve Thing, that I'll put into a link above. We followed this process and were able to get all the bolts off. Although excited to get the quarter panels off, you can see my enthusiasm when I discovered a little bit of rust on the upper frame rails. The rust was exceptionally light though, and not concerning enough that we felt the need to repair it. We sanded it all down and covered the clean metal with POR 15. First, we clean the entire engine bay with a sponge and dish soap and let that dry for 4 hours. Next, I work my way around the rest of the car's frame, both inside and outside, cleaning every area of the car with denatured alcohol. I wanted to eliminate any grease and dirt that was left. I did this several times until I saw faded black paint and no dirt. Once everything was dry, I made the decision to paint the entire back half of the chassis with Por 15. This even included sealing the rear window gasket channel. I used a soft brush to carefully and completely coat the entire rear channel. Make sure if you decide to use Por 15 that you use gloves and a respirator. This stuff is not only noxious, but if you get it on your hands, you'll be wearing it for more than a week. With the window channel painted, I continued with more Por 15 on the driver's side upper frame rail and shock tower, and then continued over to the whole rest of the rear chassis. This included the now exposed roof and quarters, as well as the inside of the engine bay. We let the Por 15 paint set up overnight, though it requires a full 48 hours to fully set up. The next morning, I scraped and cleaned the rear window and squeezed window adhesive into the rear channel before replacing the rear window lower trim gasket. I used Permatex Black Super Weather Strip adhesive. This has the consistency of anywhere between RTV sealant and water, but eventually sets up as hard as a rock. It's a little bit runny, so you don't want to use too much or it'll get everywhere. With the sealant now in the channel, I carefully install my new Fiero store rear window molding. I press firmly on the gasket as I work my way down from the driver's side to the passenger side. The molding is basically like one really elongated tree clip, so as you push it, the molding should hold itself in. As you do this, some of the adhesive may squeeze out. You can trip the adhesive off later after a couple of hours after it begins to set up. I then use painter's tape to hold the molding in place so it doesn't try to back out or pull out from either end. With that done, I can prepare for the reinstallation of the rear quarter panel. Before this gets reinstalled though, I need to replace all of the foam padding that was installed at the factory. I measured the original padding material that I removed from all over and purchased all new padding to replace it. Some of the padding is harder than others, depending upon whether it's merely used to seal off areas, such as in the roof panel, or where it's meant to provide mounting support, such as on top of the rear frame rails. I cut the strips to fit, and also make cutouts for the mounting holes, or any wiring that needs to pass through. At this point, I can begin reinstalling components in the engine bay. As you'll see in my next video, anything you can pre-install into the engine compartment now will save you a ton of headache later. I start by reinstalling the rear vacuum lines, which I've hand sanded, painted with metal etching primer, and then coated with black epoxy paint. This is held in place by a few 10mm machine screws, which I've also sanded and painted. With the engine bay clean and ready, I took the opportunity to also install some new heat reflective sound deadening, as you can see here. This not only reduces the unwanted engine clatter, but also helps to prevent heat soak. I go ahead and reinstall the new brake booster filter and lines using new solid hose clamps. Next, I install the reconditioned fuel lines. I end up reusing these, but only after sanding them down and discovering they were actually in good shape. We had them ceramic coated so they would last another 30 years. Then I install my brand new rear AC lines. Don't even ask where I got these from. I found a brand new set for a 1986 model year, which is necessary since I'm upgrading to the V5 compressor. Next, I head over to the other side and install the heater core crossover pipe, which I've covered with new 3/4 inch diameter hose insulation, which I also got from Amazon along with the rolls of adhesive foam strips. I mounted on both sides using the original red rubber insulated firewall tube clamps for originality. I install as much as I can in the engine bay, and then move to clean up the rear quarter panel. Over the years, it accumulates dirt in every crevice you can imagine. There's no reason why anyone should just leave it like this, so I pressure wash it with a low power pressure washer, just to make sure everything is nice when it goes back on. With the panel reinstalled, I can be proud of the effort I've put into this. There are so many little things that deteriorate over the years, or just plain get dirty. Putting in the extra effort now will make all the difference in the world to the final product. Even little things like painting brackets or installing a new fuel evaporative filter can make every bit the difference to making the car feel like a new car when it's back together. I'm so excited at how far everything has come, with the dirtiest part of the job complete. Stay tuned for the next video where I can finally, actually, for real this time, install the engine back into the car. Before you go, don't forget to visit SEMASAN.com and learn how you can help protect the classic car hobby from overregulation. Remember, only you can help make a difference.
There's a few more we can look at.
They're all alike, aren't they? Doesn't anyone make something different?
There's a moment in time.
In every society, the majority will conform to the straight and narrow, never deviating from that which is expected, but a certain percentage, eager to express their freedom of choice, will dare to challenge prevailing opinion and conventional wisdom. It is to these discriminating enthusiasts that a certain car company is dedicated. For as long as there are individuals, there will be Pontiacs.